Okay, good afternoon. Welcome. This is Kirt Christensen. Everyone should be able to hear me and see the screen. And also, you're going to see my webcam here for just a second as we get started here. So, if you're looking for the webinar on how to make $1 million a year using webinars with less than $5,000 a month overhead, you're in the right place. So, hello, everyone. Yeah, this is a good old fashioned live webinar. And so just a couple things before we start, just to make sure everyone is in a place where you will not be interrupted. Make sure you turn off your cell phone. Make sure you do all those sorts of things. Get in a room where you're not going to be interrupted. And we'll go ahead and dig in. So yes, it really is possible. Before I turn off the whole webcam here, if you look behind me on the board, you can see here's some of our records. And so we've actually done pretty well with this model. So we're going to share that entire model with you now. The first record you see up there is our daily record. Our current daily record was set on April 18th, $24,874. Our weekly record is $87,000, and our monthly record is $221,000. So I don't tell you these numbers to impress you, but just to impress upon you how valid this information is. This is something that it's not something that used to work and now I'm just selling it. This is something we're still doing day in and day out. Okay, so with that, let me turn off this webcam because for me, I see it on my screen as well. So it's kind of like looking at yourself in the mirror while you're giving a speech. So it's a little bit annoying. Thanks from Minesh. He says, looking sexy as usual, Kurt. Hi from London. Thanks, Minesh. Thanks for being on. And actually, I've got quite a few people on the webinar today, or people I've known for a long time. Probably the person I've known the longest is Lindsay. Lindsay and I have known each other since 1990, actually. She's the older sister of my high school buddy and college roommate, Eric. So welcome to the call, Lindsay. And of course, we have Minesh. I've known for quite a few years. Marshall Bone, Sonia Ramsey, Adam Maywald. Thanks for being on the call, everyone. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So here's the way that works. You're going to have a questions box. You can ask questions as we go through this presentation. That's no problem at all. I probably won't answer them the instant that you ask them, of course, but we'll have various points during the webinar where I'll stop the presentation and make sure that we get all questions answered. So we're going to go about an hour. The last time I did it went about a little bit over an hour and 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to tighten it up just a little bit. Will probably be an hour or possibly 70 or 80 minutes max. So this is something from my heart. This is something that's very near and dear to me, this entire model. And to kind of explain how we got on this whole kick and why we're talking about this $1 million a year model. A few years ago, I started writing down my 10-year goals. I don't know how many of you are into goal setting. If you're not, I highly recommend it. This isn't a webinar about goal setting or anything like that, of course, but when you sit down and write your 10-year goal, you're going to find very quickly something that's pretty counterintuitive to most people. And actually, most people would argue with you and say that that income or money doesn't really matter that much, that the best things in life are free and all those sorts of things. And I agree with that to some extent. However, if you make a list of any goal that you have, be it physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, in some way tied in with that goal, money is involved. Even if it's something as simple as I want to spend more time with my children. Well, inherent in that goal is a simple fact. If you're going to spend more time with your children, you're going to have to make more money so that you don't need to be working 20 hours a day to be able to provide for them. So my main 10-year goal was quite simply to have net sales of $1 million a year with less than $5,000 a month of fixed overhead. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't spend money on advertising. This doesn't mean that I don't have those sorts of expenses or commission salespeople. Quite the opposite. The only difference is I believe most strongly that most businesses suffer from having too high of fixed expenses. To me, I don't mind spending $50,000 a month on advertising because I know that advertising is directly trackable and will most likely return much more of that in sales. However, having a big office or having a bunch of employees on salary or having those sorts of expenses, those are fixed expenses. And so when I talk about $1 million a year with less than $5,000 a month overhead, by overhead I mean things that remain the same every month, fixed, like server expenses or employees or office or things like that. Now, that doesn't include the amount I spend on advertising, and it doesn't not include the amount that I spend on sales commissions, because those expenses are variable, and those expenses only happen when a sale is made. So Are they expenses? In accounting, yes, but in sales and marketing, not really. It's just if someone said, I can bring you $200,000 in sales, oh, and by the way, you'll just owe me $40,000. I'll bring you the sales first, and then you just can write me a check for $40,000. How many of you on the call would be willing to do that? Well, absolutely everybody. So that's the kind of 10-year goal we're talking about. So why? When it comes down to it, you need to have a big enough reason why to do this sort of business. It is not easy. It is not overnight. I didn't stumble across this, just overnight, and all of a sudden this developed into this business. For me, the two big reasons for doing this and taking the time and effort to invest in this is, to provide for my family. I have a wife and 3 kids, but also to help take care of third world entrepreneurs. By take care of, I mean help them achieve their goals as well. So, here's a shot of my kids. This is them in Nicaragua just last summer. We had the opportunity to take an entire month off, go to Nicaragua and Costa Rica. While I was there, my webinars were still running. I still made money. I still made as much money as I made any other month. I just happened to be doing it from a laptop in Nicaragua a couple hours a day, rather than sitting here in Spokane, Washington, in my office. And in fact, the day that this picture was taken, that's my son and I whitewater rafting. That's a 12-foot waterfall that we're going off. That exact day was, at that point, our previous best day sales record. That day was something like $15,000 in sales, and I actually didn't do any work at all that day. So it is very possible. It's not only possible, but it's probable if you follow this formula. There's my wife and 3 kids, 13, 9, and 6 are their ages. But also, when we talked about third world entrepreneurs, this is a family that we help in Guatemala. If I had a normal 9-to-5 type of job and I was living, quote unquote, the American dream, there would be no way that I would have the extra funds to be able to help a family like this in Guatemala. This is the Flores family. That's Jason, Pablo, and Nena. They're the children of a friend of mine from 20 years ago. And long story short, they were looking to get out of their current rut of where they're at and be able to make more income. And I've been able to help provide for their family and help them help themselves, essentially. And we'll talk about that on another call. But and actually, a very easy way for you to do this exact same thing is through kiva.org. If you're not familiar with Kiva, I highly recommend you go check it out, kiva.org. And Kiva allows you to loan money to third world entrepreneurs, and they invest that money in their current business or business they're starting, and then they repay the money. So, here's just a couple of those loans that we've been able to fund with this business that I've created. Anir, he's a guy that's he purchased a smoothie franchise in Costa Rica. He got a loan of about $2,100. This is Norman, also in Costa Rica, raised money to be able to purchase that motorcycle, which enabled him to provide courier service for different companies and work in the fast food delivery for several different restaurants. This is Jose Antonio, also from Costa Rica. If you'll notice, there's a common theme. I have an immense love for Central America, and specifically Costa Rica and Nicaragua. So a lot of the stuff that we do helps people in those countries. He was expanding his cattle ranch and got a loan to be able to do that. But the purpose of telling you all this is, no matter what your 10-year goal is going to require cash to fund it. So if it's going to require cash to fund it, you might as well get started now with a plan that can enable you to reach that. So of course, I told you my 10-year goal, $1 million a year with less than $5,000 a month of overhead. And here's exactly how I did it. So first off, the market that I did it in, the market that I'm in, is called ETF trading or options trading. Now, the market isn't really that important to what we're doing. This could apply to dozens and dozens of different markets. Now, it's not going to apply to something super generic or something where the people in the market have no money. But this is a market that's rabid and hungry and is interested in buying products related to this topic. But I'm also going to emphasize the concept of leapfrogging. One of the big advantages you ladies and gentlemen have today is you're on a webinar, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I did. And I'm going to share with you the entire framework and model that I used to do this. You can go ahead and turn around and emulate and leapfrog using the same model. And I'm no different. applied a lot of lessons that I learned when I initially got into this market. Before I did it for myself, I've been doing this for myself, started in January 1st, 2011. So we're talking 2011, 2012, and almost through 2013, nearly 3 years. But I had an apprenticeship, so to speak, and my apprenticeship was I spent about 2 years helping another company in this exact same market grow from about $1 million a year to about $5 million a year. So I've been able to apply the lessons from consulting with them, and you're going to get that same opportunity today by leapfrogging. So here's showing the net sales from the last 13 months. If you don't have a chart like this in your office, you should get one immediately. I recommend today. And you can see, here's our average sales right here. And average sales per month has been going up. We're currently at about $130,000 average per month. Yeah, we do have low months. This was August, and this was July, and this was last November. But other than that, those are the only 3 months under $100,000. Granted, the reason those are so low is actually those are in the summer, and we kind of like to take the summer off, and there's not nearly as much happening in my particular market in the summer. So, which is perfectly fine. That's not a problem to be able to take a few months off in the summer. But I take a few months off, it still does $80,000 those months. And like we mentioned, this has actually been eclipsed since the last time I updated the slide. Our best week so far is now $87,042, and this week was $86,917. So that's the nice thing about this business. It'll give you the opportunity to kind of scale up as much or as little as you want. This was in May, so you can see most of those days were $10,000, $17,000, $10,000, $10,000 days. One day was $23,000. And when you get a few days like that, pretty soon it adds up to something substantial. And earlier I referenced there's only a couple things that I have on my office wall. And if I would give you any advice, it's to emulate and model this. And that's quite simply, you got to keep track of exactly where you're at. So that's why I have this right here, which is my net sales numbers for the last 13 months. I show my last months of net sales. I show the average over the last 13 months, and I show how much I spend in advertising. This quick snapshot enables me in a second to know exactly where I stand that month and what do I need to do. The other thing I highly recommend you write down and take with you is these 3 quotes right here. I didn't write this. This actually comes from Dan Kennedy. Take massive action every single day. Good is good enough. And simultaneous implementation. I'm going to share a lot of information with you today, and I didn't put this together overnight, folks. I didn't do this all at once. I'm going to give you this presentation, and it's going to kind of overwhelm you with the amount of potential, but also there's work to it. I'm not going to dance around that. There's work to putting this together, but obviously it's well worth it. So when I talk about take massive action every single day, most of us in a corporate type of job or management type of job have the tendency to coast. Yeah, we have big projects and we have things we need to work on and crank out, but most of the time we're kind of operating on autopilot. If you start doing something like this webinar model, you're going to have to take massive action every single day to get it set up in the beginning. Number 2, good is good enough. I think the dual enemies of most of us are going to be procrastination and perfectionism. If you combine those two together, it's pretty bad. You're not going to want to complete anything until it's perfect, but you're not going to want to work on it to get it perfect, so you're never going to do anything. And the third one is simultaneous implementation. A lot of you probably know people who are not successful or haven't really accomplished much in their life, and if you talk to them, very quickly you're going to see that there's a common thread that happens, and that is they're waiting for something. They're waiting for somebody else to do something. They're waiting for somebody to respond. They're waiting for their web designer. They're waiting for their programmer. The list goes on and on. They're just always waiting for something. It's not their fault. They're just always waiting for somebody to take action to get back to them. So if you work on these projects and work on them hard enough, you won't have that because you'll always have something that you can work on. If there's a roadblock on one process or one program, you go ahead and you work on the next one. Okay, so simultaneous implementation, good is good enough, and take massive action every single day. So I have a big confession for you. And the big confession is, I had this lifestyle goal of $1 million a year, but actually we've already accomplished that. in April, or it was either the end of April or beginning of May, our sales were averaging over $83,000 a month, which if you times 83,000 times 12 months is $1 million a year company. So just in the last few months, I've had to update that. So now the new 2013 lifestyle goal is net sales of $2 million a year with less than $10,000 a month overhead. And this one's a little bit of a stretch. It took us from January 2011 until April or May of this year to get to $1 million a year net. But actually, it looks like in about 4 or 5 months, we're going to be able to go to 1 million to 2 million. That's the power of this model. If that doesn't excite you, if that doesn't keep you awake at night, you check yourself in the hospital, because this is pretty amazing to be able to almost double your business in just a few months. And essentially, all we had to do was spend more money on advertising. It sounds silly to say, but that's all we had to do. So let's explain how this entire funnel works and how this whole concept works. So how many of you on the call, when I say a webinar, how many of you know exactly what I'm talking about? How many of you have ever hosted your own webinar? A quick Y for yes or an N for no would be great. Okay, we're getting Y's or yeses from Rob, Adam, Annette, Steve, Omar, Marshall. Oh, Marshall's a no, Omar's a no, but Graciela and Philip are both yeses. So we're kind of about a little, maybe 3/4 of people have done webinars, and maybe a fourth haven't, which is perfectly fine. When we talk about the type of webinar I'm talking about, it's a little bit different in that, like today's is a live webinar. I'm sitting here on the phone talking to a few dozen of you at the same time, and giving you the opportunity to, quite simply, we're giving you the opportunity to ask questions and kind of learn from me directly. Now, the webinars that we're talking about that the system is modeled after are what are called automated webinars. And the automated webinar is just slightly different in that the presentation is recorded. Everything's done in advance. And all you really do is you send traffic to the presentation, and the presentation does the work, does the heavy lifting. So once you've set it up one time, your workload goes down about 99%. Okay. So when I talk about it's all about the funnel, I'm not talking about recreating the wheel. I'm not talking about doing live webinars every single day or anything of the sort. I'm talking about you find a product, you create it, you record the webinar one time, or hopefully multiple times, so you can get the best take, so to speak, so you can get it really dialed in. And then you put that on autopilot, so that all you do is send traffic to it, and the webinar does all the marketing and the sifting and the sorting and getting people to buy, following up with people and all that. That's the type of funnel we're going to talk about today. So here's how it works. Here's my marketing funnel. We run ads. Now, there's going to be a lot of people on the internet that are going to complain about this and say, well, you can't run ads in my business. It's not a profitable market to run ads in. And my quick answer is, well, find a different market, because the whole internet is based on the concept of being able to buy ads. I don't care how simplistic the site, any news site, any site out there is either an e-commerce site or selling ads. Okay, so we're not running e-commerce sites. We're not selling widgets. We're not selling gizmos. Typically, we're selling information products. Find a market where you can buy traffic. We don't want to have to do something where we're relying on joint venture traffic or persuading people or going to networking meetings and say, oh, I think you should send to your email list and get them, promote to your email list and get them to come to my webinar. Those kind of sales are gravy. Those kind of sales work. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not the foundation that you want to build on. You want to build on the foundation of, I put down $1,000 in advertising. What's my return? Okay. From the ad, and we're going to show you all, detailed examples of all this. Once we run the ad and they click on a link in our ad, it could be a pay-per-click ad, it could be an email newsletter ad, it could be a banner ad. We do all of them. My personal favorite currently is email marketing, but there's all kinds of different options. So once you run the ad, people come to what's called the landing page or the registration page, and on that there's a 2-minute hand-drawn video that asks for their name and email and possibly a cell phone number and a time and date they want to attend the webinar. That's it. That's all we ask for. That's how the process gets rolling. From there, they're sent to a thank you page, which elicits them to give us referrals and informs them exactly how the webinar is going to proceed and make sure they check their email so they can get the notifications and all that. Then we have them attend, the main event. Here's what they signed up for. They signed up to attend, in our case, a 2-hour full quote unquote live webinar. Now remember, when we talk about these webinars, these are actually a presentation. It's not me doing it live like we are today, but it is a webinar with a presentation appearance of live. And so the software that we use allows you to do all kinds of different things to maintain this appearance of live. And depending on the market you're in, most people frankly don't care. In the investing market, we get a couple people a day who say, oh, well, it was recorded presentation. Yeah, but that's fine. And they go ahead and buy. Then after the webinar event, someone basically gets a ticket to attend the webinar for free. They either attend the webinar or don't attend the webinar. We follow up with them for a period of 7 days to figure out what to do with these people, how to sift and sort them. And so we have a sequence for people that don't watch the webinar live. So for those people, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to get them to watch the replay of the webinar. We have a sequence for people that watch the whole thing but don't buy. For those people, we're trying to get them on the phone. Then we have a sequence for people that watch some of the webinar and then leave. Well, we're trying to get them back on the replay so they can see the entire thing and see the entire offer. And from there, we follow up, close, and get them to consume the product they purchased, or try to get them to purchase this product. So let's show you exactly what we're talking about. So here's the kind of ads that we run. So you can see that this is a very simple email ad. These are what's called an email solo ad. So if you're a member of any site like Motley Fool or Options Monster, Options University, or Market Watch, or anything like that related to finance and investing, we advertise in those newsletters. And so we advertise in those newsletters, and it's quite simply just says, hey, we have this webinar on XYZ. Space is limited. Click here to get more information and to register to attend the webinar. So when we're talking about advertising, there's really only 3 ways you can pay for advertising on the internet. And we'll just do a quick poll. What are the 3 ways, well, the 3 main ways anyway, that you can pay for advertising on the internet? Go ahead and type them in. They all start with C. Go ahead and type those in. Your guesses here. Or start putting the first one up. The first type is CPM. Okay. Oh, Adam had another one. CPC. Omar had, or excuse me, Philip had another one. Okay. And my personal favorite, this is debatable of whether it's the same thing as CPA, but we buy all of our advertising on what's called a cost per lead basis, CPL. So let me explain what those are. That was a horrible drawing, so sorry about that. Okay, so the most common way that most people buy advertising is CPM. And CPM simply means cost per thousand. That M stands for the Latin for mil, which means 1,000. So cost per thousand. So if someone has a newsletter with 100,000 subscribers and it's $1 CPM, for you to mail the entire list would cost you $100, right? The next way would be cost per click, which is I run the ad in the newsletter, and if I get 1,000 clicks, I pay a buck a click, and I pay $1,000, right? The most common one that most people are familiar with affiliate programs and things like that is I don't pay anything for sending out the newsletter or clicks or anything like that. I only pay, say, 50% if a sale is made, and that's CPA. Personally, the best and the concept that is working in one of our hidden secrets is we always advertise on a cost per lead basis, which just means we pay about $10 to get an investing lead. That's $10 that we pay to get someone to attend our webinar. From there, we typically make at least 4 to 5 times that money in front-end sales, sometimes on some webinars up to 8 to 10 times. The reason for that, the reason why this is so important is because most of the time, if you pay on a CPM basis, you're going to get hosed. you're going to get hosed because people have crappy lists, they have inflated numbers, they have a bunch of garbage on their list, and you're paying for all that garbage. On the other side of the continuum, if you pay on a CPA, cost per acquisition basis, yes, you're only paying when the sales are made. However, you're paying a very steep price for that security, right? You're paying half or more of your revenue for the person that sent you that sale. Cost per lead, the advantage is quite simply, it's kind of right in the middle. Most of the email publishers now understand cost per lead. Even if you're advertising on Google or Bing or any of those other things, you can quickly figure out what your cost per lead is and make your assumptions and make your decisions based on cost per lead, not cost per click or anything else. Okay, so enough of that. That's kind of a hidden secret. We spend over $50,000 a month on cost per lead deals, and it just makes it a lot easier. We have a lot less risk. We can sleep well at night, not concerned about what quality of list that we're sending to, or on the other side, not spending half of our revenue sending to the advertising partner. So here's what landing pages are. That's what exactly what the pages that we send the traffic look like. So on the left, you can see that's my ETF Tipping Point system. That's probably our biggest seller. Sold a couple $1 million with that. On the right is my options science system. You notice they have some similarities. They're all built using the same software. You see the one on the left. All we're really trying to do is get them to choose a date right here. Choose a date and then choose a time. Give us their name, give us their email, and give us their cell phone number there, and hit that register button. That's what we're trilling for. That we'll pay $10 day in, day out. Doesn't matter. Good years, bad years. Send us the traffic. We'll pay you $10 for everybody who does that. This one's a little bit different, but the reservations box is down here, but other than that, it's basically the same. And here's our newest one. This is our weekly options one. Very, very similar, very simple, nothing complicated, but they work like crazy to capture leads. In fact, this ETF one here on the left, across hundreds of thousands of dollars of spend, the performance is starting to tail off just a little bit because a lot of people have seen it, but that page still converts 37 to 40% of the people who land on it turn into a lead. So just to show you what those hand-drawn videos look like, I'm going to play you one of the hand-drawn videos just so you get an idea. So as we're playing this video, think in your mind, think of how much would it cost to get something quote unquote as sophisticated as this. It's not sophisticated, but a lot of people think it is. Get this done. Here's the video. Is it really possible to safely average 6.32% a month investing in ETFs? Hello, my name is Kirt Christensen, and while I was raised on a dairy farm in Preston, Idaho, my first real job was VP of sales for an internet startup, which admittedly we got lucky and sold for $11 million on May 1st of 1998. More recently, I've sold over $6 million on the internet just since 2010. But apart from the internet marketing, I've also been a huge fan of the financial markets and creating long-lasting wealth for families. So about 4 years ago, I started working on what I call my ETF Tipping Point. It's been a labor of love for me and something that I really enjoyed doing. With that, I've uncovered a secret. It's nothing cloak and dagger, but it is very obvious. And once it's pointed out, I can actually sum it up for you in 3 short words. But historically, it's averaged 6.32% a month across 9 separate ETFs in less than an hour a week. Now, this is not day trading, commodities or futures, Forex, watching charts 10 hours a day, or buy, hold, and pray. So register now for my free 90-minute webinar, and I'll spill the beans on exactly how this works. Okay, so that's our little hand-drawn video. So what's your guesses? How much would it cost to get something like that done? Go ahead and type your guesses in. Guesses, guesses, guesses. How much would it cost to get that done? Philip Blackwell said Video Scribe. I think that's the name of the software they're actually using to create it. Fiverr.com. Well, it might be several Fiverr gigs. Omar says $600. Omar says $10 on fiber. Steve Jaffe says, if you use software, not much. By an artist, quite a bit more. Yep, you're absolutely right. This is done by software, so this one actually cost a grand total of $200. So not free, but not expensive at all. If you use the true hand drawn, where it's a video camera of a whiteboard looking over the artist's shoulder as he draws it, there's going to be a little bit more. There's going to probably be $300 or $400 a minute minimum, up to $600 or $700 a minute, but it might be worth it. Okay, so that alone, just to kind of give you a perspective on how much of a machine this webinar business can be, just having that hand-drawn video will increase the opt-ins on most sites by about 20%. So I'm not talking, if your opt-in rate was 20%, it goes from 20 to 40%. I'm saying if you start out at 20%, if you switch it to a hand-drawn video, the opt-in rate is going to go up 20% of your current results. So basically it would go from 20% to about 24%, which is pretty dang amazing if you think about it, that something so small can make that big of a difference over time. So let's show you the thank you page. This is the page they get to after they attend the webinar. No, excuse me, after they register for the webinar, but before they attend. So this has some nice features built in. It has a nice little video that plays that tells them about it. It has ability to schedule on their calendar, like it on Facebook. They can print this page, all of this kind of stuff. The cool thing is this is all built into the software. Even 4 or 5 years ago, the technology to get this kind of stuff done would easily cost you $20,000 to $30,000, if not more. The software that I use actually is called Evergreen Business System and costs a grand total of $500 one time. And you can run an infinite amount of webinars on it. So pretty cool, pretty slick deal. So once they get to the time where it's time to attend their webinar, then they'll see a page like this. Once they log back on, it'll pull up this page and it'll show them the video will start playing. And I like to have drawing on the screen like you see right here, but it also will show them, they can click a Facebook like button. It'll show the registered participants. These are all the people who registered to attend that particular webinar. They can send in questions. In our case, we don't answer those live, but they just come to us by email. And a huge involvement exercise is at the bottom. At timed intervals, it'll pop up little polls and ask them things like, hey, how much do you know about the new weekly options? Right? Very cool stuff. So this runs, like we talked about, runs on Evergreen Business System 4 times a day, but here's critical. It actually runs 4 times a day, all in local times. So even if someone's in Australia or in the UK, like Minesh, my buddy Minesh Bindi that's on right now, they don't have to worry about getting up in the middle of the night or doing it really early in the morning, because when they come to the page, the software senses that and adjusts the times to their local time, so they can watch it at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m., just like us, just like anybody else, any time zone in the world. So when I talk about this is running 4 times a day, it's actually running 4 times a day in 24 different time zones around the world. And the system that I sell is all about investing. So it reveals a secret, quote unquote, method, and then teaches them the manual method of doing that. So then we sell the automated method. So the easiest way of explaining this, and I could have an entire workshop on just this concept, is we want to teach them long division and then sell them a calculator. If you write nothing else down from today's presentation, I highly recommend you do that. Teach them long division and sell them a calculator. The reason for this is because the long division is the content. The long division is the education, right? Now, some people may say, well, isn't that a bait and switch? You're teaching them one thing and then you tell them to buy something else. No, absolutely not. How many of you on this call do long division? Well, probably nobody, right? We all use a calculator because a calculator is a shortcut. However, if we didn't know how to do long division, a calculator wouldn't do us much good, right? So that's why the important reason is you got to have something that you teach them. You got to have something that's education But then at the end, you're going to sell them an automated or a quicker way of doing exactly the same thing. Okay. Let's take a look at some of the questions we've had coming in. This is from Robert Coates. He says, why schedule the recorded seminar? All why not allow them to just watch the video? Making an event increases sales enough that you don't show the video right when they try to sign up? Yeah, absolutely. How many video files do you have on your computer that you've never watched, Robert? Well, if you're like me, hundreds. By having an event, a scheduled, timed, in time and place, you're going to get increased participation, right? Now, there's various studies that show that, in my case, if you go to that page, it'll allow somebody to watch a webinar as soon as 3 hours from now, which is fine. There's other people that swear by, as soon as they register, allow them to watch a replay of yesterday's event today or right now. The problem is I don't think most people have the ability to open their schedule like that. Most people, don't come across the website and go, oh, yeah, I have 2 hours right now. It's going to work better in my market where I say, well, here's when the presentation is, when works best for you. This is from Sonia. She said, is there a reason why it's only 4 times a day? Is this specific to your niche? No, not really, Sonia. We're just trying to maintain the aura of credibility, because 4 times a day does sound like a lot, but people can get, okay, well, you do it a few times a day. I can see that. We don't want it to be, run every hour on the hour or anything like that. It's from Rob Christopher. He says, are you actually selling the software that does it for them, or an info product that shows them a better, more automated way? The second one, Chris, we actually show them basically an info product and alerts that show them a better, more automated way to the long division way that we show them. It's from Robert Coates. It says, seems like you would lose people between the time they sign up and when the seminar is presented. Well, if we lose them, those are people who probably wouldn't buy anyway. We're trying to set an expectation that this is an event that happens at a certain time and place. Once they sign up, depending on how in advance they sign up, they're going to get emails with further credentialization. They're going to get emails that present the information in a slightly different way, all encouraged to get them to attend the live presentation. This is from Steve Jaffe. Says, can you show your average stats for show rate and sales? Yeah, show rate is 49%. So across the board, someone registers, we get 49% of them to show up to the webinar. The sales percentage, it actually varies by webinar, of course, but the least that we see is 4 to 5 times the initial ad spend. We track it by how much it costs for the ad spend, and the best on some lists, it hits 8 to 10 times on ad spend. This is from Steve. He says, have you found EBS reliable enough to depend your business on? I was spooked by some recent changes to EBS that made the software buggy for several days. I know exactly what you're talking about, Steve. Actually, you've been using it almost 3 years now, and I waited a couple months from when it was originally launched. I think they have 99% of the stuff worked out, and my stuff rarely has an issue. I have an issue maybe once every 6 months of something I need to tweak. Maybe they have me on a special thing where they respond to my support requests faster or something like that, but I don't really have any issues that require much support. This is from Annette Bone. She says, what industries, niches besides financial/marketing have you seen this work well for? This automated webinar system, I've seen it work for almost anything that has a high ticket buyer or a passionate buyer segment. You could do this in almost any of the sports that have a high passion, high amount of spend. Golf, for example, I've seen it work in survival markets, of course, all the financial markets. The survivalist types of stuff is huge right now. Anything investment newsletters, all those sorts of things. That's, of course, where I spend most of my time. This is from Robert Coates. He says, what criteria are you using on the ad spend? In other words, are you only using cheap ads? No, I mean, we're paying on a cost per lead basis. So actually we use brokers. We use brokers that do most of the work for us. We tell them at the beginning of the month, we want to spend 50,000 or 60,000 or whatever. they arrange that with their clients, and at the end of the month, we either pay a little bit more, or the amount that we spent carries over to the next month. It's from Omar. He says, so why not spend $1 million a month on advertising if you get 8 times return? Yeah, just the universe. There's only right now with my sources right now, I could probably spend about $100,000 a month. And so that's, one of the things that we're looking to do is expand that universe and be able to go further out. Now, it's not an infinite universe of places that you can advertise at that rate, of course. So it comes down to you have to then go back and work on your funnel. So if I'm getting those types of returns, I need to go back to my funnel and add additional products and services into the funnel to increase my lifetime value of customers and all that sort of thing. This is from Adam Maywall. He says, were you currently trading ETF options before starting this, or did you learn it, then create your core software? I've actually been doing this for about 15 years, so I was doing it for far longer time than I started selling it. It's from Sonia. She says, did you test your opt-in animated video performing versus a video with you? I didn't test a video with me like a a talking head sort of video. I did test it with a PowerPoint sort of video, and this way won about 20% over the other way. I really don't like those talking head sort of videos personally, so I should test it, but I'm probably not going to. It's from Omar. He says, how can you use this for affiliate products? Quite simply, you could use this for affiliate products by setting up an evergreen perpetual launch webinar and sending traffic to it. Either buying traffic or having it as part of your back end, and using the webinar as a pre-frame for an existing affiliate product. This is from Steve. He says, what do you think is driving the 49% show rate from paid traffic? I get 49% or higher from my list, but paid traffic to my webinar shows at around 30%. Steve, great question. We have a very intensive process from the time they sign up to get them to attend that webinar. It's about 4 or 5 distinct emails, all with a different angle, all with a different credentialization, trying to get them to see the importance of this, and also having open loops. And so, we tell them a couple of hooks to get them on the webinar, but then when we in the emails, we open more loops and try to get them even more intrigued and more engaged to attend that actual webinar. It's from Robert Coates. He says, apparently you're using email lists. The question about ad spend relates more to Facebook ads. I haven't done as much with Facebook ads. It's a whole wide open market. I just haven't spent as much time with that right now. So I eventually will. Okay, we're going to go ahead and head on. Great questions, folks. Go ahead and keep those questions coming. And we will start with the next slide here. So one of the things I highly recommend when you're running the webinar is to draw on the screen. Just like I'm doing right here, you should get one of these little Wacom tablets, and it enables you to draw on the screen. What does that do? Well, it just draws attention back to the screen if you have people who aren't paying attention. Like I can look in my GoToWebinar list and I see there's a couple of people who aren't paying attention. And if I draw on the screen, the chances are that some of those people are going to notice that action and it's going to catch their eye and they're going to come back to that window, right? Ooh, squiggles, exactly. You also must have on the webinar some form of real scarcity, the phone ringing, proof that other people are ordering, proof that other people are indeed paying attention to this same event. So right now I'm sitting in an office all by myself, right? There's no real interaction with the real world, but by asking you guys questions, by getting you to respond, it makes it more lifelike and makes it more realistic, and also actually helps people learn better. The other thing is when it comes to a sales aspect, we want to have some form of real scarcity, the phone ringing or proof that other people are ordering. That's why one of the things that we do in every webinar, we allow people to order over the phone. It may seem a little bit antiquated, but in our market, the investing market, it works like crazy. And what I mean by that is when it comes to the offer at the end, yes, they can go ahead and purchase over the internet, but most of our sales, probably 60 to 70%, actually come from people who call our office number and leave a message. I'm not even joking, folks. We have $5,000 to $10,000 a day coming in over our voicemail of people leaving a message on the voicemail. So just like the old Jerry Lewis telethons when they're raising money on TV, on PBS, whenever they put the information on the screen, okay, time to order now. Well, then they would cut to the phone room and you'd see the phones ringing off the hook, operators taking calls, taking donations, all that kind of stuff. So we do that exact same thing. So if you watch one of my webinars, the ETF Tipping Point one in particular, at the very end, you'll hear the phone ringing like crazy. That's on purpose. I leave the phone on as people call. The phone would start to ring, and so we'll be answering questions or doing some sort of frequently asked questions at the end of the webinar. But with that phone ringing, it just gives people the sense of, okay, this guy asked people to call. People are actually calling. I'm not crazy if I go ahead and order this, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get also get those people who are on the fence. So because how many of you, and we'll cover this a little bit later about the on the fence part, but how many of you have ever been on a webinar and had a few questions, excuse me, but didn't order because you had a few questions? Well, most of us, most likely, right? Let me take a few more questions that we have here right now. This is from Omar. He says, but you are asking questions while we are live. If it's a recording, it looks fake. No, it doesn't. They can't tell in that market. They're asking, because we're not taking voice questions live. We're saying, oh, here's a question from Steve in Atlanta. They can ask questions on the screen at the same time. We never promise that we're going to answer every question, so you have to be careful about that and make sure that you say. Now, if we didn't answer your question, it's because most likely someone asked a similar question, or your question was basically stupid and it doesn't apply, right? That's how you get around that. It's from Steve Jaffe. He says, do people leave their credit card info on your voicemail, or do you take their contact info and have someone call them back? Both. We have a high percentage of people who just flat out order on the voicemail. So those are processed by my office assistants and taken care of the next day. And then a certain percentage just say, I don't want to leave my credit card number, but I did have some questions and I want to buy. I just had one or two questions. And we'll cover that later at exactly how we do that. Okay, so here is some of the meat of what we promised. I want to give you my 25-step fill in the blanks webinar formula. So I'm actually going to give this to you as a PDF. So even if you don't get this all down now, I will send you the PDF if you ask for it just by dropping us an email to kirtchristensen@gmail.com. Just respond back to the reminders you get from GoToWebinar, and we'll send you out a copy of this as PDF. Okay, I know I'm going to go through this fast. That's okay. You will be, like I mentioned, have the opportunity to get the PDF. Ask questions as we go through this, and then we'll take a little bit more questions about these specific 25 steps. Number one, if you're going to write a webinar, you've got to have a hook and promise. You got to have a big, compelling reason why they're getting on the webinar in the first place. Number two, you've got to ask them to increase their focus. Remember at the beginning of this call that I said, turn off your cell phone, go in a quiet room, etc. Like you can even expound on that and talk about that for several minutes. I don't do as good a job as I should on that, but you want to have them increase their focus. Number three, you want to offer a congruent, specific reward for staying until the end. Why do you want them to stay until the end of the webinar? Sounds like a dumb question, but why do we want them to stay to the end of the webinar? Because it's only at the end of the webinar do they know how much the price is and what the offer is and how to buy it. If someone drops out 3/4 of the way through the webinar, they're just thinking, oh, it's a great educational content. Thanks so much for the free information. But there's no way that they can purchase because they don't even know they can purchase. They don't even know that there's something for sale. So you want to offer a congruent reward for having them stay till the end. You want to establish credibility. This is crucial. A lot of people skip this step and they skip right over this. If you don't establish credibility, there's no reason why people should listen to you, right? It's as simple as that. If you don't say, here's why you should listen to me, they're not going to listen to you. You got to establish your credibility. You have to promise a breakthrough today. Here's what this is. If you're selling, you're an internet marketer and you're selling a system on how to get more inbound links to your site, the promise would be something like, by the end of today's call, you will know the exact 7 steps you need to do to get hundreds of inbound links per month to your site. No longer will you suffer from XYZ. Now you will be able to know with laser focus exactly what to do, right? So promise a breakthrough today on the webinar in the content you're providing. And of course, it's very important that you actually do that. Don't just promise a breakthrough, deliver it in the webinar material. Number 6, bond by telling your story. People give this and the credibility not nearly as much importance as they should, right? Credibility and the bond by telling your story are both crucially important. If you don't have a story, you need to think of what your story is. Everyone has a story. Everyone's story is important if told correctly. Now, when I say bond by telling your story, you want to tell the specific elements of your story that directly apply to what you're talking about. You don't start out, okay, in kindergarten, I was pushed down the slide, or unless it ties in with what you're talking about in the webinar that day. You want short, concise, sound bit like information that you can use as your story. Number 7, remove guilt. By remove guilt, you need to blame someone. This is a little bit out there, but trust me on this. You got to have some reason that it's not their fault that they haven't got the results that they're looking for up until this point. Remove the guilt. Number 8, you need to give them an overview of the process or strategy. Number 9, show the math and the potential possible in dollars and cents. Now, this is where the education comes in. The overview of the process or strategy, this is the content that you're teaching them. And you're going to show them the math of why this is important. Why it's important to get inbound links, because New York Times says this, and Wired Magazine says this. And if you don't have inbound links, you're costing yourself X amount of dollars. Takeaway. Do the takeaway as powerfully as you can. The takeaway is where you just say, this is who this applies for. This is who this doesn't apply for. Do not follow under the illusion that your product should sell or be sold to everyone that attends your webinar. That is not going to happen. There's always going to be unqualified people in your webinar audience. There's always going to be people who are too much more hassle than they're worth. Have a takeaway. Explain exactly who your product works for and who it doesn't work for. Number 11, reveal the complete system. And number 12, demo the solution. So all of this right here, this is all education, right? Down to demo the solution. That's where you actually, if you do nothing else but just demo your solution, you're going to do just fine. Demoing the solution is crucial because this is where people often drop the ball. This is where you need to show with undeniable proof that you actually have a product, how it works. If you have a membership site, log into the membership site. If you have a trading system, show the results, show the daily trades. I want you to have this laser focused. What I highly recommend that people do is when you're getting into the demo part, if you're going to demo something that's online, make sure that you record that ahead of time. Don't go onto the internet while you're doing a webinar and try to demo your software or things like that. My strongest recommendation for that is get either ScreenFlow for Mac or Camtasia for PC and record your demo without any sound. Then take that file, put it into your PowerPoint or Keynote presentation, and whenever it's time to run that, just like I did with that those hand-drawn videos, then you just hit play and you talk over the demo as it happens. It's going to allow you to be much more confident and in control. Number 13, case studies, aka testimonials. You got to have proof that what you're talking about works and that other people have done it, not just you. Number 14, here's what you get. This is where you kind of say, here's what the complete package is. Number 15, you start billing the total value of that package. That's where you start talking about your bonuses. Number 16, you reveal the retail price and investment. 17, you talk about bonuses if you buy tonight. Number 18, this is where you do what's called a price drop with the reason why. This is if you're familiar with Armin Morin. Anybody ever bought anything from Armin Morin who's on the call? Anybody who's a customer of good old buddy Armand? Got a yes from Annette. Nobody else is a customer of Armin Morin? You guys are nuts. You should buy all of this stuff. He's a good guy. Anyway, this is what Armin would call in his Persuasion X training. This is where you start doing the stack. So the stack is you have the core system, you have all kinds of bonuses. You got to assign prices to those and values and start explaining, if you had to buy all these separately, here's how much they would cost. Number 19, risk reversal to remove fear. This is where you have some sort of money back guarantee. It doesn't have to just be a money back guarantee. It can be some sort of conditional guarantee or something like that. Number 20, you create urgency of some sort. It has to be some real believable sense of urgency. Number 21, scarcity. Scarcity and urgency are tied in together, right? Some reason that it's both scarce and urgent that they make a decision. Number 22, universal buying objections. This is where you cover all the frequently asked questions of reasons people haven't bought in the past. Number 23, final price and full offer details. 24, strong call to action. And 25, a warning and a reminder. And actually, if there was a 26, I actually should add this because I do this in most of my webinars. After we do the close, I actually spend about 20 or 30 minutes doing a frequently asked question. So it kind of goes counterintuitive to the way that most people think about a webinar, but I will go through the entire webinar, do the close, get sales coming in, and then actually take the time to just allow people to ask questions. What this does is we'll answer 2 or 3 questions, check on the sales numbers, answer 2 or 3 questions, check on the sales numbers. So as we count, if we're selling 25 units that we're taking into a specific group, we can answer a few questions, say, okay, well, there's 5 units left. Take a few more questions. Oh, looks like Joe Blow in Buffalo, New York just ordered. Looks like we've got 4 more units left, all the way down to 0. Okay, so after the webinar, what happens? Well, after the webinar, you don't just ignore these people and let them drift to the wind. You have a specific autoresponder sequence set up that covers every possible scenario. If they attended the whole thing and bought, attended the whole thing and didn't buy, attended partial and didn't buy, or didn't attend at all. So after the event, we follow up with them, close them, and get them to consume the product. So quick question, how many of you have ever attended a webinar and had a few questions afterward? So anyone ever attend a webinar and had a few questions afterward? Steve Jaffe says never. Sonia, yes. Annette says yes. Well, here's a question. It kind of goes back to a little bit some of the content we covered before. So if you do coaching or consulting, your demo solution would be the actual testimonials if you don't have software, specific tool, etc. Well, Annette, if you're doing coaching, yeah, it would be the entire process. Maybe it's if you're doing coaching, maybe you have a initial consultation that they go through. Well, you show them that initial consultation. You show them the results of other clients. If you're a coach book authors to write a book, you show books that have been written with your coaching. You try to make it as concrete and as tangible as possible. This is from Steve. Okay, so yeah. So the point of that question, have you ever attended a webinar or had questions afterwards? How many of you have ever received a follow-up phone call after attending a webinar? Anybody? So what we highly recommend that you do is we use a commissioned sales staff. And so I'm going to show you, and my commissioned sales guy just walked in. There he is. Hi, Ben. So this is Ben Piper. What he does is, remember we talked about the Google Voice number and we get a lot of inbound phone calls of people on the fence? Well, Ben follows up with those people and gets them to buy. So in the last year, he's actually sold over $200,000 worth of stuff. The sales that we wouldn't have had any other way other than him just getting on the phone and calling people up and saying, what are your questions? And at the end of answering those questions, he says, so do you want to buy this? And that's about as simple as it gets. They're not tough sales. There's not a lot of education because they've already watched the entire webinar. The sales are more consultation to make sure it's a correct fit for what they're doing, and it's make sure it's something that makes sense for them. So we have an extra $200,000 come in the door just because of this guy right here making phone calls to people who are on the fence. These are inbound calls of people who've already called us. Now, we could go to the next step. We haven't done this quite yet, where we could have him call everyone that's attended the webinar. But as of right now, that's a little bit of a stretch. So we're focused on the inbound part of it right now. Okay, we had some questions come up about that. Steve asked, how do you get the phone numbers to follow up with? You asked for the number on the webinar. No, these are the inbound ones. So these actually, these are people at the end of the webinar who call our office and say, I have some questions, call me back. And so from those, just from those calls, that's $200,000 a year in business, or about, or about a little over 10% of our total sales just come from that. So many of you may be asking, well, how do I get a commission sales guy like that? Well, quite simply, I'd highly recommend you do something like this. Run ads on Craigslist or similar mediums. Be very specific on what you're looking for. That's the great thing about Craigslist. I think actually in a lot of markets, supposedly tomorrow, they're going to start charging a $25 fee to post job ads, which I think is great. It'll cut down a lot of the job ads, but so for this one, inbound sales pro needed. We're asking for someone with 3 to 6 years of experience in sales. We said you're likely a fan of these following books. We talk about the types of tasks, follow up on inbound sales calls. We show them the actual webinars. So it's not a blind ad at all. They could go to etftippingpoint.com or optionscience.com and see the actual webinars. But here's the interesting part. If you're going to post on Craigslist or any of those types of sites, you're going to get flooded with resumes of unqualified, qualified people all mixed together. So what we do to sort that out is we want people who will follow directions, of course. So we say, if you're interested, please send an email with sales rep in the subject line and in the body the following items: a LinkedIn profile, a Facebook profile, and a short 50 to 200 word elevator pitch on what you can do for me as a sales rep. In Gmail, these emails come back to Gmail. In Gmail, we have a filter set up. The filter says, anytime we receive a message with the subject line sales rep, if it does not include LinkedIn and Facebook.com in the body of the message, delete it. If it does, then send them, the next step, the next step in our hiring process. That alone will eliminate 90% of your hassle right there. Just by having a little filter that says, hey, if you don't follow these directions, we're not going to reply to you. Okay. You got to understand that you're in control. You're the one offering a very valid position. For example, in this case, Ben Piper's earned over $40,000 this year working really, really part-time. By really part-time, we just, he can do everything he needs to do in about 1 or 2 hours a day. And so he actually has his own business that he runs. But I'm sure most people who are looking for a part-time job would be ecstatic with $40,000 a year for really 1 or 2 hours a day of work. And for me, I don't mind paying that. It's all on commission. It's all on straight performance. Okay, so other things on how to get them to follow up and consume. We use sendoutcards.com. How many of you are you familiar with Sendout Cards? Go ahead and say yes. If you're not, say no. If you haven't joined Sendout Cards yet, you should join. You should join through my link. Technically, it's an MLM. I never use the MLM part, but I do use a system every single day. We use Sendout Cards to follow up with our new customers 4 times in the first month, all on autopilot. And it helps keep us fresh in the minds of our new customers. It makes it a lot easier to sell existing other products. So here's a screenshot of our 3 main products: ETF Tipping Point, Option Science, and the weekly options system. You'll notice that the weekly options system, we've sold $76,000 worth the last time I checked. All of that is as a follow-up or additional sale. None of that is from advertising that we've done at all. It's all just part of the system where we, as soon as we get them to buy one product, they get emails from us, but more importantly, I think, is the physical contact. They purchased the ETF Tipping Point system. They get brownies in the mail and 3 or 4 additional contacts in that first month. And when we send an email to that list of new buyers, we get 200 webinar registrants in 5 minutes after sending that email, and ended up with over 1,800 by the next day. So here's what the brownies look like from Sendout Cards. They're scrumptious, by the way. we get compliments weekly from people who love the brownies and thank us for sending them the brownies. And I think that's kind of backwards. We already thank them. They spend $1,000 on a product and we send them some brownies and they thank us. So that's a good problem to have. So here's our follow-up sequence. When they initially buy, they get the brownies and a thank you card. 10 days later, they get a just checking in card. 20 days after that, they get another card. And then I think another 15 days after that, it doesn't show on this slide, they get another card as well. And we basically thank them, just good old fashioned thanks for ordering. And we allude to some other bonuses that we're going to give them in the future and kind of keep them in the loop of exactly what we're going to do, what's going to happen in the future. So in this business, the crucial element is you got to be able to run your numbers backwards. Our front end sale that we promote the most is our ETF Tipping Point. It has a $1,000 front end sale or $3,000. People can actually purchase it for 3 years as well. The average sale is $1,100 with more on the back end. Our conversion is about 20% of live attendees to the webinar. So the average is about 220 per person in the sales, but not everyone shows up. Our show up rate is about 50%. It's actually 49%, but just for purposes of rounding. So we make $110 per person who registers on that particular webinar. So on that particular webinar, we can spend $110 to get one person to register for the webinar. So that makes for a very good business. So here's some things we could definitely improve on. I've only got 3 products right now. I hope to expand that to at least 6 by the end of the year. I have, 3 in production right now. So hopefully if we can ramp those out, we can be able to get that to 6. With 6, we should be easily be able to hit our $2 million a year sales goal. So my upcoming goals are to get better logic to get people on the webinar, what happens when they don't, what happens when they register and don't show, all those sorts of things. And the big one would be to implement Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft is a high-end marketing automation system that will allow us to do even more complicated things than we're doing right now and automated all of it. Right now, my system is kind of semi-automated. There's some things that my staff does that they have to run a routine once a week or once every 2 weeks, things like that. And I'm fine with that, but if we can switch all the way over Infusionsoft, it would actually save us some money in that sense that we turn recurring tasks that we're paying for into a one-time programming fee to get it set up in Infusion. We're going to use retargeting on people who opted in and then didn't attend the webinar yet. We've actually already started that. That's very, very powerful. Imagine sending if someone opts in to attend your webinar, and so they're on your list and they're getting a persuasive, powerful email every day. Plus they see custom banners everywhere they go on the internet. Hey, we won't stop following up with you until you come to the ETF trading webinar we told you about. And of course, direct mail sequence to webinar registers. We haven't done this yet. Another kind of direct mail sequence that we're going to start to do is just do postcard mailings to purchased or rented buyer lists of other trading products and just send them directly to a webinar. So frankly, folks, it has been my pleasure sharing with you. This is the 4th time I think I've done this webinar. Let's see, this morning. Yeah, 4th time I've done this webinar in the past 4 or 5 days. I love sharing this information with people because this really has the power to change your business life. This stuff is powerful in the sense of it works in the real world. This is not theoretical. This isn't, some invention or theory that I dreamed up that might work. This is real world testing and stuff that I've spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on. So how many of you would be interested in engaging me personally to create this entire process? Now, for those of you who are in a larger, a medium-sized business or higher, this may be of interest to you. I've actually done this process 2 times already. And quite simply, I've done it for some pretty high-profile clients. This is Ross Jardine. He is one of the co-founders of Invest Tools. If you're familiar with that company, it was the largest investing trading company in the world at one point. They sold it for several $100 million. And he actually hired me to do his 60-day Money Miracle webinar sequence, all the way from writing the webinar, getting the product together, and all of that. Of course, it wasn't cheap. It took me nearly 40 work days to get that done over the course of a couple months. Or also Laurel Langmeyer. If you've been to any airport bookstore, you've probably seen some of her books in there. She's a New York Times bestselling author. Such books as The Millionaire Maker, Act, Think, and Make Money the Way the Wealthy Do. We did her whole webinar system. And for that type of service, if you just want me to do everything from A to Z, nuts to bolts, and give it back to you just like in the format that I currently have for my webinar systems, that would cost you $50,000. And at that price, it would be a bargain at twice that price. You're basically dealing with 2 months, almost entirely 20 full days of my time to put something like that together. And frankly, at that price and in my time schedule, I only have time for one person or one company that price in the rest of the year. So if you're interested in that, just contact me directly, kirtchristensen@gmail.com, and we can talk more at length about that. Now, for those of you who are in a smaller company or in more of a startup phase, I have an additional option of many of you would most likely be interested in a 2-day, what I call my $1 million webinar office field trip or my $1 million webinar workshop. And what this entails is I'm going to give you my entire process book, including my 25-step webinar formula. So by my entire process book, what I mean is I will give you, excuse me, all the documents that I use to run my business on a daily basis. Basically, we use a complicated version of Google Docs, not a complicated version, but the business version of Google Docs. And we give you access to everything. Exactly how we run the business, process refunds, deal with chargebacks, increase our advertising budget, keep track of our stats, all of that. It's all in there. You get access to that entire business. This entire business is going to do in excess of $2 million this year. Fingers crossed, but without even working hard, we'll probably get to 1.5 million. I run in less than 3.5 hours per week that I have to do. Sure, I'm here in the office more than that, but I'm working on new projects, new money, new sources of revenue. If I just wanted to maintain what I had, I could do it in 3.5 hours a week because of this process book. You get to meet my staff, ask them detailed questions on exactly how they do their jobs. Specifically, Ben Piper. Ben is going to be at this workshop. He's going to be covering a section of this training, and we'll be there live to ask people. You can ask him as many questions as you want, exactly how he does his job. You get to see multiple $1,000 orders come into the shopping cart in real time. This isn't something where I did it years or months ago. I'm actually going to show you as they come in, as it happens. You'll get to listen in live phone calls coming into our Google Voice line, just to show you exactly that this is something we do day in and day out. And, I'm going to kind of break from the routine here, and I'm actually going to show you, that we practice what we preach, so to speak. And I'm going to log in. I put the screen on pause real quick so we can get there. But I'm going to log into 2 of those different accounts just so I can show you that this isn't something that we did years ago, and we're still milking that, right? Okay, so now you should be able to see my screen again. I've logged in. Today is September 30th, and you can see so far today we've done $8,470 in sales. If I go to reports, let me pull a report for this entire month, and you can see how much we've done in sales on a daily basis. So this month, so far, we've done $115,000 in sales. Today we did 8,400. Yesterday, which was a Sunday, we did 3,000. Saturday, 2,500. Basically, so since this last time I worked on Friday, we've done 8,000 plus 3,000 plus 2,500, right? Last week, 5,000, 5,000, 2,500, 6,000, 5,000, 2,000. Every single day there's sales coming in. So it looks like the best day last month was a $19,000 day. Okay. So, and just today, we've done $8,000 in sales. We talk about we take a lot of orders by Google Voice. Well, here is our Google Voice account. You can see that we actually have 25 messages in there right now. The green means that there haven't been responded to yet. So you can see, call. These are all within the last 4 hours of people who are interacting with my staff in some way, right? Some of these are orders, some of these are, follow-ups for Ben, all right there. And these are all, well, this one's 3 days ago, so these are before the weekend. But this is just normal. This is just a normal, a normal occurrence to have happen. So when we talk about you get to see multiple 997 orders, We'll show you those orders as they come in, like we listen to some of those phone calls on Google Voice. Full PDFs of every process and procedure that we use to run this business. You also get my complete Rolodex with every advertising contact, outsourcing provider, and vendor. You get full screenshots and printout, including every email, every text message, and every contact we have with the prospect. You get my entire send out cards campaign that you can model and emulate immediately for customers. You get my hiring process that we talked about, so you can get inbound sales reps for free, commission only. And you get 10 free graphics jobs, as complicated as you want, with my graphic designer. I have a graphic designer on retainer that I barely use. So I'm paying money every month just to have them on retainer, but you can use them up to 10 different graphics jobs. You can get themes done, WordPress themes, you could get DVD covers, whatever you want. That alone is probably worth the cost of what you'll spend for this entire workshop. So the total cost of this, if you would be interested in my 2-day $1 million webinar workshop, went backwards, hold on. The total cost of this is going to be $4,997. And with that, you get not only the things we already talked about, but you also get, like we talked about, you get to see all the orders come in. You also get the full PDFs, but you also get a detailed overview and walkthrough of every computer program that I use on a daily basis. You get access to use an unlimited amount, my GoToWebinar account, the account we're using right now. I barely use. I use a couple times a month. And for that, I have what would, if you were to buy it now, would cost $500 a month. I'm going to make this available to anybody who attends the workshop, unlimited, on a first come first served basis. Just register on our calendar. You can use as much as you want. You also get a 30-minute webinar critique direct from myself, and also the infamous copywriter Ray Edwards, who's personally written probably 75 to 85% of the internet marketing launches in the last couple of years. I'll do a 30-minute critique. He'll do a 30-minute critique just to double check your webinar script after you're done. Also, a bullet point that I don't have on here is I'm going to give you a word-for-word transcription of all 3 of my webinars. So even if you had to start from scratch between the 25-step webinar checklist and my transcripts, it's a no-brainer to be able to put down a winning webinar. So this is going to be at the Marriott Las Vegas Resort and Spa. So it's in Summerlin, Las Vegas, on the north side of Vegas. Again, the Marriott Las Vegas Resort and Spa. The total price for this will be $4,997 to attend the workshop. It's going to be October 29th and 30th at the Las Vegas Marriott Resort and Spa. And if you're interested, here's how you apply. You apply by leaving me a detailed message on my secure office voicemail at 509-720-7867. Just express your interest, kind of tell me a little bit about your background and what you would be using this for. I'd be more than happy to return your call and chat with you to see if this is a fit for you or not. Again, we're targeting this towards people who are in the startup phase, who are looking to apply this information immediately. The $4,997 is a drop in the bucket compared to the value of the information that we're going to provide. Obviously, I've tried to over-deliver today on today's call, show you exactly what we're doing, show you live proof that this is the real deal, and impress upon you the scalable nature of this venture. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some questions for a few minutes, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So for those of you who are interested, go ahead and drop us a phone call, 509-720-7867 if you're interested in attending. Again, it's going to be October 29th and 30th at the Las Vegas Marriott Resort and Spa. And I'm going to go ahead and answer a few questions before we sign off. This is from Philip. He says, what are you using now instead of Infusionsoft? Right now, we're using one shopping cart, kind of shackled together with send out cards and a few other things using not automated processes, but kind of semi-automated processes. This is from Steve Jaffe. He says, can you please elaborate what the calls to action are in the direct mail campaign from Send Out Cards to get them to register for another webinar, something else? In other words, how does the direct mail campaign result in more sales? Most of the direct mail campaign using Send Out Cards is just a thank you. However, towards the end of the 30-day cycle, we send them a card that asks them to register for another webinar. This is from Dennis. He says, I would love to do this, but don't have a product. Yep, Dennis, that is a problem. Definitely, you need to have a product. If you're interested, we can talk more about that. Depending on your situation, it may or may not be easy to create a product quickly. I highly recommend for this webinar process that you do something that has at least a $300 price point to make the numbers work. From Omar, he says, how many staff do you have? We have 2 part-time assistants and a part-time sales manager and myself, and that's it. And Omar says this is from 3 projects ranging in price from $997 to $297. Actually, the prices are $997 or $297, $2,997, so $1,000 or $3,000 for one. Another product is $500, and another product is $1,000. So all in that $500 to $3,000 range. From Annette, thank you so much, Kirt. You did over deliver. Thank you so much, Annette. I'm glad that you thought that. Any other questions before we wrap up? We're a little bit over time, of course. We're at an hour and 25 minutes. Just want to make sure that everyone got all their questions answered before we hang up for the day. So my challenge to you is go out and make this happen for yourself. This has been the best model that I've ever seen for internet business, and has been the absolute best way for me to automate and to systematize my life and my business. So highly recommend you take action. We'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for being on. And if you have any questions, go ahead and give us a call again at 509-720-7867. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.